Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna get the crowd first. Okay, do you want me to stop this?
No, your phone.
Oh, my phone.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep, I got it.
Does it work if we're speaking from right there?
Yeah, I'm gonna get closer when you guys start speaking.
Okay. Yeah, I guess
I'm getting the crowd shots right now.
So I'm just gonna let them know you're the person that's
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Dedicated photographer. Facebook Live.
Oh, are you Facebook Live guy?
Yeah, that's me.
Your phone's charged?
It's her phone. I think it's charged.
Okay. Is it on mute so I can't hear what we're saying?
I think so. We want them to hear when they start speaking. I'm trying to be muffled. Hushed.
Then they gave us duty, and then they gave us sin. Then he generations that built to build this land. They rock of the nation was laid to be proud. Solid sober people scouting back to God. And when it peaceful seeker to God a broken charm. Then they stole my Sunday, and then they stole my peace. With countless acts of malice and hatred without cease.
JJ's there, Paul's here somewhere.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're thrilled to have you here. What a great turnout. I'm Ron Benioff. I'll be speaking a little later. I just wanted to highlight for folks who came. Area in the middle, please use it. If you want to have a little more distancing, it looks like we're pretty spread out. And we'll be facing this way. We're telecasting this on Facebook Live, just so you know in terms of where you want to sit. If you want to see us, we're going to be headed this way, so feel free to move over this way. And we're starting in a minute here. Thanks again.
I wouldn't recognize you at all. Yeah. So it's funny because some people you recognize right away with this. Others, and I hope you get back to that. I don't know. Well, and
I am.
I'm the high-risk age.
Well, yeah, I don't even think
Well, for the time being, no. But I don't know. Maybe it's 2 months. Maybe it's 6 months.
Check, check. Okay. Okay. So, we're good. We're good. We're going to start. Hello, everybody. Hi. Thank you for gathering here today. We're gathering in peace, love, and solidarity. Thank you for coming with open hearts, open minds, and open ears. We recognize that we're still in the middle of a pandemic, so thank you for keeping 6 feet of space between yourself and someone who does not live in your household. Thank you for wearing your mask, and thank you for acting with love. We appreciate you for coming and for staying safe. We're going to have a few comments. We will then take about 9 minutes of silence. We're going to turn to our neighbors and have discussion and talk about what we're going to commit ourselves to do. And then we're going to have a peaceful march to show other people why we're here today. First, thank you to everyone who put this vigil together. I can't tell you, there are 5 different groups, more than 20 individuals who came together today to unite us in solidarity. I would also like to say thank you to Chief Kilpatrick for his letter to the community condemning the death of George Floyd and for being with us here today. Thank you, everybody. The fact that I'm seeing all of your faces here today, here in Golden, it makes me really proud to represent you. And the reason why we're here today is a vigil and a march for the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the countless other Black lives in America cut short while interacting with our police and justice system. We are here to recognize systemic racism in America, reaching nationally and all the way down into Golden. So we are here to recognize that Black lives matter. And this is not our political rallying cry. For us, we're making sure it's a recognition of human dignity, of current events that stem from the foundation of our nation that also have historical roots in Golden. Golden has a history of the Ku Klux Klan. We have a history of burning crosses. So saying Black Lives Matter does not mean that all police are bad. It does not mean that all white people are bad. And it does not mean that all lives don't matter. Of course, all lives matter. But we're here today to show solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, to acknowledge their pain and commit to learning, acting, and changing. We are holding this on Facebook Live for those who cannot expose themselves to COVID so that they can also participate. We do recognize that Golden is a majority white community and we were a majority white organizing group. We might say the wrong words, and I've given myself permission to make mistakes, and I hope you all also do. Whoa, thank you. Solid save. With Summer and Martin, Cole. Hey, thank you. And then just give it a second, we'll get the speaker back up. Thank you. Awesome. Are we still good on sound? We're still good. Thank you. So we are here today as our first step in accountability. If you haven't already and you have the ability, please attend the peaceful gatherings and protests in Denver, where you can hear from people who identify as Black or African Americans, who are speaking, who are creating music and creating art. They are unifying in Denver. And I want to share words from a multiracial family in Golden who gave me their permission. This is from a girl in Golden who identifies as Black. She said, "I am so sad and so scared right now. I know my friends and family love me, but I feel scared and people do not understand." And this is from her mom. What she said to her son about how we can make change for his sister and for everyone else because he feels scared for her. We always stand up for Blacks. It can be uncomfortable because it is so easy for us to not say anything. And for the white people, we know not to talk about it. But we need to be uncomfortable to make change. And finally, I'll say, giving a voice to the community This is from a woman who's in our crowd today. She identifies as a white resident of Golden, and I've slightly edited her statement for length. She said, I pledge to stand, not to stand idle. I pledge to, with intentionality and willfully advocate for anti-racism, especially during uncomfortable conversations with family, friends, and neighbors. I pledge to support Black-owned businesses. I pledge to not keep quiet out of fear of being wrong. I pledge to correct and further educate myself when I am wrong. I pledge to listen, to learn, and most importantly, to act. Please, will you pledge this too? We have a station doing pledges right over here. So we invite you to pledge as well. We are doing this in Golden because we care. We are opening up communication. We are providing information outlets to act and to change. We are holding each other in Golden accountable. And for me, I have not done my part to ensure that Black, Indigenous, and people of color can thrive, have equal opportunity to thrive in Golden. I have not previously acknowledged and worked to end systemic racism, and so I have asked myself, what can I do? As a city councilor in Golden, I condemn racism and bigotry. They are unacceptable. While my interactions with our police department have always shown their community-first approach, I recognize that what makes me feel safe might not make my neighbor feel safe. So I'm here to listen and learn. And I am already learning. One of my residents has reached out and gave me a path forward. I'm committed myself, and Councilor Reed has joined me, to finding a way to assess our policy and our code to find gaps where we can prevent racism. I didn't mean to pause there. Thank you for that clap. That's not what I was asking for, but I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I have notes, I'm a little bit nervous, so I just ended up pausing because I couldn't read. So I hope that what we do involves the same training that we know our police force gets in mandatory bias. I hope that extends to our city council. I also hope that you all, our community, will engage with us and help us shape that path forward. We know that this is going to take a lot of work. There's no quick fix. It starts with learning, acting, and changing, and this work is a lifelong commitment. So I challenge you to ask yourself what I ask myself. What can I do? Today, Mackenzie is going to talk about her commitment and what she can do. Our Mayor, Laura, will talk about what the city can do. Ron is going to talk about how Golden United is opening lines of communication for us to unite in learning, discussion, and action. One thing you can do is learn about Senate Bill 217. Emmy and Anna are here, and they're raising their hands, and they're here to educate and help you learn about what this bill is about. Again, thank you for gathering in peace and love and in solidarity for the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm going to bring up Mackenzie now.
Howdy, Golden. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I feel very uncomfortable. So please bear with me. I'm going to read this off my phone. I'm Mackenzie, as some of you know, and I am so glad that we are here. We've showed up in solidarity for Black lives today, and that is the first step. A few days ago, I asked friends to join me to walk Golden to support the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, to see all of us here today show up for a movement that is so incredibly important is inspiring. I hope Golden's response to the call to action translates to real daily action. The next steps are truly on each and every one of us. Racial justice is something we both show up. Racial justice is something we must show up for every single day. We must be willing to make mistakes and mess up and try again and again and again. We must be teachable. I want and expect to be held accountable. I vow to engage in uncomfortable conversations with friends and family. I vow to show up for Black Americans. I vow to reflect on how I personally interact with the Black community. I vow to be vocal when presented with racist acts. I vow to do deep inner work. I vow to educate myself more and more. I vow to vote for those who share these same ideals and stand against those in power who don't. On all levels, and local, state, and federal. It's time to educate ourselves. We can find great anti-racism information under the resources tab on our own community's Golden United's website. That can be found at goldenunited.org. This includes books, articles, documentaries, and the many organizations that are accepting donations for this cause. I'm going to ask you a question and I would like you to answer. Are we committed to using our privilege to battle the grave injustice Black Americans endure daily? If so, please say yes.
Yes.
One more time.
Yes.
Let's do it for a third time.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's take a minute to honor just a few of the individuals that have fallen victim to racism and have woken our nation up to reform. Please repeat after me. Emmett Till.
Emmett Till.
Rodney King.
Rodney King.
Sandra Bland.
Sandra Bland.
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin.
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown.
Eric Gardner.
Eric Gardner.
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor.
Ahmaud Arbery.
Ahmaud Arbery.
George Floyd.
George Floyd.
And this is just to name a few. This is just a part of why we are here. It is time to take a stand for our future. Thank you. I'd like now to open up the floor to Mayor Laura.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Those were powerful words, and I appreciate you being here and sharing them with all of us. Good afternoon, Golden. It is really great to see all of you here today. After so many weeks of being safer at home, I admit to being a little uncomfortable out here in a crowd. COVID-19 is still spreading through our country, and I know some who are not comfortable being here today, and I respect that. Sometimes, however, we must do what is uncomfortable to stand up for what is right. Today, that means showing up and showing our support for the Black Lives Matter movement and the end of racial inequity everywhere. Like you, I was shaken by the brutal death of George Floyd in Minneapolis and horrified by the recent killings of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and the recent examples of racism caught on video. As individuals, as a community, as a nation, we must recognize systemic racism and the challenges that Black Americans face on a regular basis and work together for change. I recognize Golden's shameful history of racism. 100 years ago, Golden saw KKK meetings held up on our South Table Mountain. It is an ugly part of our past, and it does not reflect the Golden of today. However, we would be naive to think that racism doesn't exist here. It does, and now is the time to actively commit to our Golden values, to be a community where everyone is safe, welcome, and treated with respect and dignity. As a resident of Golden, as an elected official, I am proud of the women and men of the Golden Police Department who work to serve our community. I know they are committed to excellence, integrity, and personal responsibility, and we must support them to do their jobs at their highest level. Golden City Council began discussions last week and will continue to discuss racial equity this week. We will be voting on a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. Going forward, we will review police department policies and training. We will discuss body-worn cameras, and we will look at our city code to identify inequities. The The work to root out systemic racism and racial bias is not a one-time effort, but rather an effort that needs to persist until it becomes a part of the fabric of who we are and how we make decisions in Golden. It is great to see so many young people here today. Thank you for being here. Showing up is important. Caring for others makes Golden a better place. And voting makes a difference in people's lives. I hope everyone 17 and over is registered to vote and that you plan to vote this year and every year. If you need to register to vote, you can do that here today. There is a table registering voters right over there. Every election counts, from the Jefferson County District Attorney to the position of United States President. You can bring about real change. Use your voice and use your vote. I know that my voice is not the most important one right now. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today, but I will have many other opportunities. Today and the past weeks and coming days have been about hearing from others, about their experiences and their ideas for change. I am listening, I am learning, and I know that together we can work for a better future for all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for learning with me, and thank you for teaching me. I'm going to turn this over now to Ron Benioff with Golden United, who's going to speak about what they are committed to doing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Weinberg, and thank you to you and all the city councilors for your amazing leadership on this issue. It is just amazing to see you all here. And I've been in Golden 20 plus years, and I don't think I've ever seen a turnout like this on a single issue that is so important to our future, and an issue where we all need to commit to act now and into the future in a sustained manner. So thank you for being here, and I'm really excited about how we're going to work together to end racism in Golden, in Colorado, and in the U.S. You know, I can't begin to speak to the experience or the pain that the black community is going through right now. And I think there's very few of us here that can. But what I can say is that the murder of George Floyd and numerous other black Americans at the hands of the police and members of society is an outrage. And the system that props up this kind of behavior and these sorts of actions must be fixed now. I also am appalled that in this nation, founded on principles of equality and justice, that we have allowed systemic racism and bias against black Americans and all people of color to persist for over 400 years. That is wrong and must be fixed now. We can never forget this terrible legacy, and we must seize this moment in working towards eliminating racism in all forms. I don't know what's going to come next, but I know, and we all know, what came before cannot stand anymore. I'm proud to see the Golden community so strongly express its commitment to ending systemic racism against black people and all people of color. And while I recognize that I will never have a complete understanding of what it's like to be black in America and subjected to daily injustice, prejudice, and inequity, I am committed to listening and learning and need to do a much better job than I have here so far. I am ready to take full accountability and responsibility that as a privileged white man, with all the work I need to do towards changing my behavior, the behavior of others in society, and our laws and policies to erase the ingrained system of racism and intolerance, and to truly become an anti-racist. I'm also ready to do everything possible to enable open and inclusive dialogue across the whole community, to understand differing views on this topic, build awareness of the existence of racism and the scourge and impacts that it causes, and to find pathways for action and reform that people will support and that we will implement. The upsurge of activism and citizen engagement, including the great turnout here and communities across the country, is inspiring. If we can sustain this energy and participation, we can and will make real lasting progress. But today is just the start of activities by the Golden community to address racism. We all need to commit ourselves to a long and difficult journey together, and I look forward to working with all of you and others in the community. And I would like to invite you to join with Golden United, a citizens organization in the community to bring people together to solve challenging problems just like racism. So I'd like to invite you to join with us and other organizers in the event in doing the hard work in the days to come. We're planning as an organization 6 activities at this time, and we're very keen to get your feedback. First and foremost, listening to the views of Golden residents about racism and identifying meaningful actions that we can take that will bring all segments of the community together in tackling this terrible problem. Importantly, this includes making a safe space for black voices and other voices of color to be heard and to be supported. Secondly, we're committed to working across the community to educate ourselves and others in the community about the systemic racism and the actions to address it. This needs to be a proactive commitment to continuing and sustained learning. We've already had a great start. A team, and thank you very much to everybody who worked on this, has prepared an initial listing of books, articles, movies, podcasts, donation information in the anti-racism handout that's available here. Annie Albrecht, who's here, has done a phenomenal job working on this and so many other activities, has copies. It's also available on our website. Please help us, though, improve this collection of resources and work with us to help educate your colleagues and friends. Third, we are committed to getting as many people as possible and as are comfortable doing so to sign the pledge launched today to build awareness of racism and actions necessary to rid our society of it. Please sign the pledge. Annie has copies in electronic and paper form. It's also on the Golden United website. I would like to highlight one key commitment in this pledge that really deserves further emphasis. This is the responsibility we each as individuals have to speak out and take action whenever and wherever we observe racist behavior. Let us all commit to never again being a silent witness to racial injustice. Fourth, we're encouraging donations to local and national organizations who are tackling racism against Black people and all people of color. You can make a donation today. We've listed some organizations, or a donation later, and we welcome suggestions as well as organizations that are deserving of support. Fifth, we're creating an informal citizens group to guide all our activities going forward. Please join us. Let me know, let other organizers know if you'd like to be part of this group. We're going to have our first meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m. virtually. So please join us, recommend others that could participate. And then sixth, starting tentatively on June 17th, we're going to launch a series of webinars, of virtual forums designed to educate ourselves. So we'll have a forum that focuses on the history of racism, the causes and impacts of racism here in Golden, forums on individual and communal accountability, forums on the role of government, the city, the police department, and forums on the role of businesses and other organizations, and use this process to both educate and inform ourselves, but also move towards citizen mobilization so that we can lead the way. This is a movement driven by the people and needs to be sustained by the people to end racism. We're keen to hear your ideas and suggestions on other things that we can do together, and are excited to work together. I'd like to close with the words of Angela Davis, a Black American professor and activist, who said, "In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist." I encourage all of us here today to become committed anti-racists and to inspire and persuade others to do the same. Thank you. That's the first thing one of the first things we'll be talking about. Why don't I answer it now? Or actually, let me just give you my answer. I don't want to claim. Yes, and if somebody wants to help contribute to the answer. So to be anti-racist means not just to say that racism is wrong, and not just to tell others that racism is wrong, but to look at the root causes of racism, to figure out what are all the factors in individual behavior, in our institutions, in how we educate ourselves that are contributing to views of discrimination and inequality and bias and lack of support and justice, and to take action directly counter to those causes. So it's to fight against the causes of racism. And thank you for the question. That, in my opinion at least, is what it means to be anti-racist.
Thank you. Thank you again for everyone being here today. We are going to do a moment of silence now. We are going to then turn to our neighbors and have a conversation about what we want to do in Golden. And then we are also going to march. Right now, let's take 8 minutes and 46 seconds in a moment of silence. This is the time to recognize the amount of time that a police officer in Minneapolis had his knee on George Floyd's neck. And that was the amount of time it took for George Floyd to die in his interaction with the police system, killing him. And I heard, yes, I'm so sorry. I said today that I'm uncomfortable. I said that I am going to make mistakes. And someone had used the word murder. And I'm saying that we are going to take this time, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Please join me if you can. You're seated, you can kneel. and think about what we can do to be anti-racist, to answer your question. For me, I'm going to think about what it was like for George Floyd to die, the video that I watched. I'm going to think about what I can do as myself and as an individual, what I can do as a city councilor in Golden. I'm going to think about how I can reach out to other people who aren't a part of this discussion, who are not here today, how I can meet them where they are and bring them to be a part of the discussion. So let's go ahead and take that moment of silence. Feel free. Thank you. Thank you for taking that time, that 8 minutes and 46 seconds together so that we can reflect. We said today that we want to have uncomfortable and courageous conversations in Golden. This is our first step. We want to commit ourselves and pledge ourselves to stop systemic racism. Let's take some time, socially distanced time, to turn to your neighbor, turn to your friend, and tell them, what are you committed to do? What are you pledged to do? Let's take this time now. Thank you. Well, we'll probably take about 5 minutes. Also, we want to make sure that you know you can come sign the pledge, physically come sign the pledge. And when we're done discussing, we're going to do a march.
So this is Senate Bill 217. So call your representatives and demand that they vote for
I'm gonna borrow this. She's swamped over there, so.
Thank you. This one actually works.
At what point do you think I should stop doing this? Because at this
Maybe
point I'm just doing crowd shots.
Here, turn it this way. I'll tell them we're going to take a pause.
I can type it out.
Oh, do that.
Okay. Do you want to start it back up when we do the march?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Or like, I think they're going to open it up to the community to speak in a minute.
Okay.